Real quick, before we begin, I just want to say that Broly is in this story, and I know he's super powerful. However, I decided to make him a little less than Frieza at this point of the story, since it's just a few years after he lands on Vampa. It's not 40 years like in the actual Dragon Ball story when we first see Broly. So, please forgive me if you think that Broly should be a lot more powerful, but it's for the sake of the story. Anyways, let's begin.
Last time on Dragon Ball Z, the Saiyan warrior race has served Frieza for years, and though they are tired of his rule, they have no other option but to comply with his demands. One day, Frieza called every Saiyan back to Planet Vegeta. Bardock believes it's because he has finally decided to exterminate the Saiyans. Gine and Bardock send their son Kakarot to Earth in order to save him from a presumed death. However, Frieza will merely hold a celebration. What will be the consequences of Bardock's mistake? The future of the Saiyan race is decided now. A dreadful mistake. What if Bardock was wrong?
Bardock faces Frieza alone as he approaches the mothership. Frieza, covered by bits and pieces of confetti, questions what Bardock is doing here. The Saiyan charges a blast to attack Frieza. Frieza is known to be cruel and ruthless, and doesn't want to deal with the rebellious Saiyan. Bardock screams at him about the planet of Vegeta, and saving the Saiyans. Frieza has no idea what he's talking about, but realizes that this Saiyan has a really high power level for somebody so low class. Bardock fires his blast, which Frieza dodges to the side. This causes the attack to barely miss him. This draws a little blood from the tyrant, who instantly shoots a death beam through Bardock's chest. The Saiyan dies, realizing that he may have made a mistake. Frieza returns to his activities in the ship, and requests for Dodoria and Zarbon to find out everything they can about that Saiyan. Frieza and his army head down to King Vegeta's castle and throw Bardock's corpse on the ground. The king kneels before Frieza, along with most Saiyans. Frieza simply kicked him to the side. The tyrant smirked, saying that treacherous Saiyans will end up like Bardock. The king had landed from the kick right next to Bardock's lifeless eyes. A soundless gasp left the king's mouth. What Frieza was doing was make an example of Bardock, so the Saiyans would remain obedient little monkeys. However, King Vegeta acquired a form of respect from Bardock, and requested for his armor to be displayed in the castle, as a reminder of the evil that rules over them. Bardock becomes a symbol of rebellion amongst the Saiyans, but also a symbol of what happens to those who rebel. The king, who had previously become hopeless in the idea of independence, once again began to consider plans to take Frieza down. In particular, he wanted to use his powerful son to become the most powerful Saiyan. Meanwhile, Zarbon and Dodoria found a ship landing back on Planet Vegeta. They had been looking for Bardock's kids and wife. As it turns out, the ship that landed was Gine's and Goku's, as she had just gotten him from Earth. Zarbon snatches the child from his mother's arms. She tries to fight them, and lands a good hook at Dodoria's jaw. Zarbon walks away holding Kakarot by the tail, which dazes him to near unconsciousness. As he closes his eyes, he hears his mother cry out for him, and a ki blast strike her. Dodoria laughed, and the two soldiers bring the child to Frieza. Raditz is already in front of the tyrant, with his head down. He is surprised to see his little brother enter the room, even a little disgusted. He was excited to have gotten a special mission from Frieza, but his brother was a weakling. Frieza then tells the children that their father had died in an awful accident, but that he was a powerful warrior. To remember him, Frieza will personally take care of the children. Well, his soldiers will. Blueberry asked if Frieza was completely sure about this. Frieza smirked at the boys as they were sent off to their new home. He said that if their father was a strong low-class warrior, then these boys could be trained to be personal weapons. Back in Planet Vegeta, the prince arrived home, where his father welcomed him with open arms. Vegeta was upset that he had been sent home just because Frieza wanted to see Raditz. King Vegeta told the prince not to worry, as he had something planned for him. The king explains that he remembered a Saiyan child that he had sent away long ago, with an incredible power level. Now that he was planning on making the prince the most powerful being, he would need an equally powerful training partner, if he was still alive, that is. He and a couple of Saiyans ventured to Vampa, where they found Paragus and Broly. The Saiyans realized how dangerous the environment had been, and just how strong Broly had become in those few years. King Vegeta knew he would have to swallow his pride and have Broly join his cause. He apologized apologized to Paragus and told him the plans to take down Frieza. Paragus wasn't totally convinced, but he wanted out of the planet enough to accept. However, the king said that he would actually begin to send young Saiyans to Vampa in order to train them in those tough conditions. They would build a base in secret, and Paragus would oversee the project along with a few other Saiyans. Paragus felt as if his pain had been nearly completely relieved, and he even had been promoted in a way. Sure, he was tired of the planet, but at the very least, he won't be alone, and he'll have a new place to live. The king also set out to repair the ship that Paragus had lended him, as they would need all sorts of ships. They would be short-handed after all, since they are working in secret. The ship would usually land far away from the facility they would eventually create. With agreements in order, the king sent out his young son, Nappa, and a few dozen Saiyans to train under the harsh conditions in Vampa. The king even went as far as to seek out his younger son, Turbo, for training in Vampa. The young Saiyan never caught up to his brother, but he did get significantly stronger while training there. However, both the king and the prince disregarded him as just another soldier, though Prince Vegeta was a little kinder than his father. Every few Saiyans born, King Vegeta would hide their existence from Frieza. However, the Saiyans he already knew about would have to be sent out on a mission periodically, so Frieza wouldn't notice anything. Broly was an incredible force to be reckoned with, but was also shocked if he began to go overboard. Prince Vegeta and the other Saiyans got quite a few beatings from Broly, but this only served them to make them stronger. Vegeta grew resentful, as he knew he was the rightful prince and should be stronger. However, at the same time, he had a level of respect for the incredible power Broly had. A few years passed, and the Saiyans on Vampa had amassed a small army of Saiyans, led by Prince Vegeta. Their years of exclusively training had made them much stronger than the other Saiyans on Vegeta, so much so that they could rival many of Frieza's army. Broly was still in a completely different league, however, with a power that could rival, nay surpass, Frieza. Along the way, they attempted to achieve a power similar to Broly's Berserker mode, which he would occasionally push himself into. None of them managed to do so, however, but nearly all the kids learned to control their Ozaru state with the help of Vegeta. Broly also got more control over his Berserker mode, but it was still not safe enough. As if a mirror image, the two sons of Bardock trained every day without rest, only occasionally going out on missions. They had far surpassed Zarbon and Dodoria due to the horrific beatings they would endure daily. Their natural ability to get stronger after each fight kicking in at full force. Frieza was proud of the voice to a degree, and would occasionally allow them to spar with him. He would go easy on them, however. But it got to the point where his first form was actually challenged, and the boys were two of the very few people to see Frieza's second form and live. However, they were still tools first, and tools needed to be used. On one of the few missions, Raditz was sent out to take out a planet along with Vegeta, as he had done long ago. Not long before the mission was over, Raditz overheard Vegeta speaking in private. He looked over a corner and heard him speaking to the king about a secret army on Vampa and a rebellion. Raditz let a gasp go, and Vegeta instantly cut off communications and went out to look. Raditz was already gone, but Vegeta could read in his scouter that his power had spiked up as he flew off. Though the Saiyans couldn't suppress their power, it was pretty obvious when somebody exerted themselves. Vegeta crushed the scouter and returned to the other Saiyans. Raditz had already blasted off back to Frieza and told him everything he had heard. Raditz and Kakarot had been taught well to be obedient little monkeys. Frieza was not going to let the Saiyans rebel against him, and immediately called down the Ginyu Force. The Saiyans that knew of the secret army returned to Vampa, as they knew that Frieza would be there any second. King Vegeta scolded the prince fiercely for leaking the secret, and even beat him up. However, Vegeta caught the last punch of his father and threw him back. Prince Vegeta began to walk away, but his father yelled back at him. The king turns to get Bardock's old armor, which he had set up on Vampa's new throne room. Sure, Bardock had been a low-class warrior, but he had also been the first one to stand up against Frieza. The king gives Vegeta the armor, telling him to change out of his bloodied-up suit. Vegeta didn't believe in symbols or this sentimental schlock. His father did, but he took it anyways.
Remember, son, you are the prince of the Saiyan warrior race, the champion of Vegeta.
Hey kids, don't go away. We'll be right back. And now back to our show.
Soon after, the Saiyans were set up and ready. Broly and Vegeta were high up on the atmosphere with a few other Saiyans. Thankfully, Vegeta had time to get into a healing chamber. On the ground, Nappa led the rest of the Saiyans. The Frieza mothership soon arrived, accompanied by some other ships. There was a moment of silence, which was only interrupted once Frieza got out of the ship. He began to create a giant destructive key sphere to decimate all of Vampa. He realized that Vegeta was wearing the armor of that same Saiyan that attacked him long ago. Without hesitation, Frieza threw the sphere.
Broly, now!
Vegeta yells out, as Broly erupts his ki, which collides with Frieza's own sphere. It starts to get pushed back. Frieza's eyes widen. If the sphere reached him and he dodged out of the way, all of his fleet would be destroyed. He had no choice. He transformed into his second form instantly and kicked the sphere up in the sky. An explosion of a star was seen far away. Frieza then looked back at the Saiyans, who began to rush back down to the ground. Frieza yelled for every man to head down there, and 7 pods launch. They rush past the Saiyans, who arrive soon after the ships. Nappa leads the Saiyans into the battle against the fearsome Ginyu Force, along with Raditz and Kakarot. Nappa and the rest struggled, but thanks to their numbers were able to keep them afar. Once Vegeta and the rest landed, they instantly went for Kakarot and Raditz. Vegeta realized just how powerful they were. However, they were nearly even. He hated Kakarot. He was not only a powerful low-class scum, but also a traitor. Same with Raditz. Broly was the MVP, as he not only took on Raditz, but also Bardock and Gine at the same time. Bardock had been particularly troublesome thanks to his speed, but Broly's massive strength ensured that once he got a hold of Bardock, he wouldn't let go of him. Many Saiyans fell, especially once Frieza's mothership arrived, filled with soldiers. Bardock, Gine, and Goldo fell thanks to the Saiyans' efforts, but Ginyu and Recoome were handling things better. Nappa's squad began to struggle. Broly started to help, but the soldiers kept on piling onto him. Broly began to get angry, and Paragus, who was watching from the facility far away, clicked the button to prevent him from killing his own men. The electric shock made Broly fall from flight and onto a grassy area, where soldiers began to gang up on him, led by Ginyu. Paragus couldn't watch his own son get killed. However, the ground under Broly began to shake, and they were all thrown up in the air. As they fell, a huge mouth zoomed in and ate all of the Frieza soldiers that ganged up on Broly, except for Ginyu. Ginyu managed to escape. Broly looked back and saw a giant figure of a green creature missing an ear. Ba had rescued Broly. Broly then started to fight against Ginyu. Ginyu even tried to do the body exchange, but Broly was too fast for him. Ginyu was defeated. Broly looked back at Ba and rode him into battle. Raditz and Kakarot retreated to Frieza's side as he stepped out of the ship. The king and the prince hurried after them, as the prince warned his father that Frieza could transform, as he had seen it happen moments before. Frieza's voice silenced the battlefield. He called the Saiyans useless monkeys that deserved death. Vegeta didn't wait for him to finish before he blasted him. The battle resumed. In the process, Nappa, Zarbon, and Dodoria all died in the skirmish. Kakarot vs Vegeta continued, but it finally seemed as if the Saiyans would be able to defeat Kakarot, until Raditz got in the battle again. Vegeta was in a pinch, while his father battled Frieza. He had no option but to throw up an artificial moon. Saiyans all throughout the battlefield transformed into fearsome Ozarus. Though many of them had been taught to control it, others were simply getting in the way as they fought mindlessly. Raditz and Kakarot transformed as well, but Broly zoomed underneath them, cutting their tails off. Broly had his tail removed as a child, and it hadn't grown since. Vegeta exclaimed, "Traitors!" and blasted Raditz and Kakarot. They tried to fight back, but a bunch of Ozarus ganged up on them. They were easily killed afterwards. All other Frieza soldiers retreated. Frieza was visibly shaking at the sight of hundreds of Ozarus coming after him. The king grabbed him and began to squeeze tight, but Frieza escaped by exploding his ki. This gave Frieza the opportunity to blast the artificial moon away, making all Saiyans go back to normal. The king stood in front of Frieza, badly hurt. Frieza transformed into his true form, his final form. That's right, skipping the third. No time for games.
The Saiyan race will no longer be your slave. This is for the future of Vegeta!
The king blasted at Frieza, but Frieza simply shot out a death beam through the blast and into the king's chest. Frieza laughed loudly. The prince's heart skipped a beat as thunder began to sound off in the distance. He didn't much care for his father, but this affected him much more than he thought it would, spending all these years planning for their reign after defeating Frieza. These emotions built up inside of Vegeta as he transformed into a Super Saiyan. The other Saiyans stared in awe as Vegeta began to beat Frieza. The Emperor was caught off guard. So, this was the power of a Super Saiyan? However, Frieza still had one more trick under his sleeve. The Super Saiyan had pushed Vegeta close to Frieza's power, but not his full power. Frieza blasted Vegeta away with Ki Bullet Barrage. This gave him time to slowly increase his power to 100%. Vegeta fell to his knees. He thought he was going to be able to defeat Frieza, but no. Now, it was all doomed. Broly stood on Ba with his fists clenched. He needed to help Vegeta somehow. Broly rushed at Frieza as his hair stood up. It seemed as if the blood waves emitted by the artificial moon had allowed for the Ozaru within him to awaken once more. Frieza was still a little stronger, but he couldn't believe he'd encountered two extremely powerful Saiyans in one night. Vegeta didn't want Broly to get all the fun, and he rushed in. However, Broly was beginning to lose control and slapped Vegeta away. Paragus saw this from the facility and electrocuted his son. This let Frieza blast Broly away and continue to defeat Vegeta. The prince sped at Frieza's face. Frieza then took Vegeta and made him face the facility and the rest of the Saiyans. Frieza told him to look at his kingdom as he destroyed the facility into pieces with one giant sphere. Frieza said he was undefeatable. Vegeta smirked. He felt the ground shake beneath him. Sure, many Saiyans had died already, but he knew of one thing he could do.
I may not be able to beat you, but he can.
Frieza then got pummeled into the ground by a Super Saiyan Broly. Seeing his father get blown away caused a great transformation. However, he was uncontrollable. The Frieza soldiers that had escaped back onto the ship tried to fly it off, but Tarball and a few other Saiyans rushed up to it and threw them off the ship. They couldn't stay there, though it hurt to leave Broly behind. They knew they had to get away before Broly killed them. Tarball helped his brother onto the ship, and every other living Saiyan came on board as well. Frieza tried to take them off the air, but Broly was relentless in his attack. Frieza did, however, manage to throw a sphere onto the core of Vampa, which would make it blow up at any second. Broly didn't care. He wanted to make sure that Frieza was dead before the planet blew up. Broly saw Ba from afar and knew what to do. The Saiyan grabbed Frieza by the head and dragged him all the way to the animal. Frieza screamed in fear as Broly let him go and blasted him to Ba's mouth. Frieza was swallowed whole, with no more energy to fight. Frieza was dead. Broly was tired and knew that the planet would blow up soon. The only thing that made him calm down was Ba. He hugged Ba, but Ba began to carry him somewhere. They ended up at the ship where Paragus had landed. Ba pushed him onto it. Broly was confused, but then remembered that King Vegeta had in fact repaired the ship. Broly didn't want to leave Ba, but the creature pushed him onto the ship. With a heavy heart, Broly said goodbye to his friend. The ship blasted off as the planet blew up. Meanwhile, Vegeta and the other Saiyans land on Planet Vegeta. The prince can barely stand up and needs his brother's help to sit. He's disoriented and slowly opens his eyes. The prince then realizes that he's on Vegeta's throne room and all the Saiyans were kneeling in front of him. Tarball stands next to him and says, "All hail the new King Vegeta, the liberator of the Saiyans." Cheers and hails erupted through the room, and the newly crowned king was finally able to sit back in his throne. A smirk curved onto the corner of his lip. Also, if you feel ever so compelled to draw some fan art about the what ifs I do, be sure to send it to me at my email, SmuGStick@gmail.com, or tweet it at me on Twitter @ShareYourEnergy. The Dragon Ball question of the week this week is, what is your favorite fusion? My personal favorite one has gotta be Gotenks, but let me know down in the comments what your favorite one is. Until we meet again, see ya!
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to SmuGStick, unless you want to be destroyed. Lord Beerus, that's hardly fair. But also, don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified when he uploads new videos.